Okay, what if your kitchen could become the most powerful room in your home for healing, energy, and transformation? Today on WellWaveNOW, we meet a chef who proves that what we eat and how we cook can reshape our health, expand our creativity, and reconnect us to purpose. Our guest today is Chef Mark Reinfeld, a true pioneer in plant-based culinary world. Founder of Vegan Fusion and author of 8 acclaimed cookbooks, Mark has spent over 25 years helping people transform their health through the power of food. He has trained professional chefs, home cooks, and even corporate teams, including Google and the Humane Society, to bring plant-based cuisine into daily life. From Kauai to Colorado, from silence in the kitchen to international culinary activism, his journey is inspiring, his tools are practical. If you want to feel more confident and creative in your kitchen while taking control of your health, this is the episode for you. Welcome to WellWaveNOW, your portal for actionable wellness insights. We, Greg Rice, Dr. Bob Levine, and I, Tim Daniels, are your wellness catalysts, committed to elevating your health, enhancing your functionality, and optimizing your performance at every life stage. WellWaveNOW, where timeless wisdom lights your wellness path.
Well, welcome, Chef. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you, Brack. It's wonderful to see you all again.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. I'm looking forward to this topic. I know I need more confidence and more help in the kitchen to make sure that I'm preparing more healthy meals for my family. So thanks for being our guest today on the WellWaveNOW show. And before we get into the actual techniques, let's talk about the why, because many of us, including myself, it's more than just our food preferences, right? And we want to get into more of the foundation here. So, Tim?
Yes, so Mark, you work with everyone, as we talk about, from cooks to major institutions. Why do you believe plant-based eating deserves a central place in the conversation, around our modern health and healing approach and thinking?
That's a great question, and I think just as the health focus, a lot of like Hippocrates said, let food be your medicine and your medicine be your food. So when we look at this idea of food as medicine, for me, the plant kingdom provides all that we need in terms of nutrients to sustain us. So an incredible amount of variety is possible, flavor profiles, the vegetables and the fruits, they speak for themselves. So as a chef, I love just using this abundance of the plant kingdom in the culinary creations.
Wow. So when you look at the real world application, whether it be for longevity or whether it's reversing illness or just day-to-day vitality, Tim shared an article with me about, I think it was back in 2020. There was a study published by the medical journal, the BMJ, that found that just even slight changes, just very small shifts towards plant-focused eating can lower your risk for heart disease and, can attribute to mortality, right? Longer life.
Yeah, so like I like to say, a lot of the major health challenges that we face as a society, heart disease, diabetes, high cholesterol, certain forms of cancer, more and more we're seeing that appropriate changes to our diet and lifestyle can help prevent and reverse these conditions. Heart disease in particular, years ago, Dean Ornish pioneered this idea that by making changes to our diet and lifestyle, we could improve our heart health. And Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn wrote a book, Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, where he has people with really severe heart conditions, like as in your surgery is scheduled for 3 p.m. today, embrace his protocol, and he has slides that show the arteries opening up. And so the connection between heart health and a plant-based diet, I think, is becoming more common. Dr. Kim Williams, who is the president of the American College of Cardiology, said for a cardiologist, they're either plant-based or they haven't seen the data. And so it's just, again, like once the data starts accumulating, I think that starts to filter down to the more of the mainstream awareness. But for those of us in the industry, and in all the trainings I've done over the decades, people experience these amazing results in their health by switching over, like you said, just making small changes towards a plant-based diet.
Yeah. Now, Mark, how far, we said the small changes, but how far have you gone in your own eating? Are you 100% plant-based?
I drank the Kool-Aid a long time ago, so I started noticing, like I like to say, there's three main reasons why people embrace a plant-based lifestyle: health or medical, environmental or sustainability, or concerns for animal welfare. Most people in my trainings over the last 20-something years have come for the health or medical reasons. I myself made the change back in the 90s. Initially, I became vegetarian when I started seeing animals in their natural setting on a kibbutz in Israel and in India and Nepal in my culinary travels. But then I started to feel better when I left out the dairy, and so it was a slow journey, but eventually I got to be fully plant-based now for at least 25 years or so.
Wow.
Well, I won't hold that completely against you. Being a Nebraskan, even though I now reside in Arizona, they love beef here too. That's a beef state. Some of the best beef in the world. So I don't know if they'll ever get me completely plant-based. I live long enough and all my teeth fall out, and maybe. But then I'll just have to puree put it in there.
Right.
But we talked about the study. You talked about the major things and at that micro level. But it's also always good to understand if, on a personal level, on a face-to-face level. Have you noticed, have you helped people transition either partially or full-born? Have you seen some changes in their health, and what type of results have you seen with individuals?
Amazing. I mean, I've seen that. That's where my experience comes from. Like people who there's one, like I mentioned in our last chat, that I do these 4-week trainings, and I've worked with people from all over the world. And in a recent course, I had someone who was retired Navy, and then he went into Homeland Security, retired there. He found out he had he was diabetic or pre-diabetic. And he made changes to his diet, and within a few months, his numbers all went into the green zone. He's just one example of many, and the only thing that he changed was his diet. And so you hear that. I had another person also diabetic. He took my course. On the first day of class, he texted me and said his numbers had never been this good, and he went on to embrace a plant-based diet, and he went into the green zone. I've had countless stories of people whose cholesterol was in the red zone and they were going to go on statins. So again, it's with like this lived experience of the only change people make is changing their food choices, and their health improves. So I'm convinced of it through that.
So, Chef Mark, you've got two former D1 athletes here and a water boy, and there's a lot of high protein diet when they were training back in the day. And that's one of the, I think, mindset shifts, right? Is that you're never going to be able to get enough protein unless you include, animal-based protein. Is that a misconception?
I believe that it is. And if you check out, there's a website, veganbodybuilding.com. You'll see these people are winning weightlifting competitions. There's another amazing movie called The Game Changers that spotlights high performance athletes, Olympic athletes who are plant-based and are crushing it. The guy who won the strongest man in the world was a vegan, lifting the heaviest weight and carrying it the furthest. The guy who ran the Appalachian Trail in the shortest length of time. Rich Roll is a plant-based ultramarathon winner. And once it's like you see what you look for. And so once you start in my feeds, I'm seeing this plant-based athlete came in at the gold level and over. So I do feel there's levels of why I think there is that misconception, but there's no doubt that high performance athletes are like totally crushing it on a plant-based diet.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Chef, about how the plant-based could appear to be restrictive, but then how do we turn that plant-based into a powerful, and you just gave 15 examples right there.
Well, I love that question because that it's a paradox, because you think that I'm cutting this out and I'm cutting that out, that I'm restricting what I eat. But when I think back to my meat eating days, I had my spaghetti and meatballs, my chicken parmesan. I had these like 6 meals that I would have in rotation. And then as a plant-based individual and chef, that's when you start opening up to more international cuisine. Your palate changes, you start developing sensitivities towards different spice blends. And so, I mean, the variety in ingredients has like at least tenfold increased in me personally just by going plant-based. So, Dr. Bob?
You mentioned dairy, like eliminating dairy, but you sort of didn't say much about that. Would you mind elaborating a little bit on that? And what you're talking about?
With dairy, in my personal experience, what I found was I was very congested on dairy, and so when I cut the dairy out, that congestion went away. So that's when I switched from vegetarian to more plant-based. It was more of a kind of how I felt individually, but my experiences also in my courses repeated like a lot of people with a lot of mucus, earaches, congestion. When they cut the dairy out, they start to experience more improvement in their health. So it's that's where I was referring to the dairy.
I hope our audience is paying attention to that, because I'm a firm believer in what you just said.
Okay, good.
And the reason why is because when they started homogenizing and pasteurizing milk, they made it from a whole food, processed food, and you know, when proteins have a certain configuration, when the body's used to that kind of a protein, it can accept it and it's fine. But when you heat and homogenize and pasteurize, protein changes shape, becomes antigenic, stimulating an immune response, and that's the basis of, in my opinion, of all the congestion and the mucus and everything else. So anyway,
totally, yeah.
That's just mad cow talk there, Dr. Bob. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm glad you said that.
Okay, one more thing. So one of my kids when he was a very young baby was congested like crazy, and we were trying to figure out a solution. And we finally went to a farm where they sold raw milk, and they told us that 9 out of 10 people who came to that farm diagnosed with lactose intolerance and whatever else, and couldn't drink milk and eat dairy, when they drank the whole milk, the raw milk, they were fine. That tells me a lot. So I want to do.
Yeah. I'm glad that worked for them. But all I'll say is there's a reason that we moved away from raw milk and mass production. And that's all I have to say on that one, Dr. Paul.
I'm going to go on that first. Yeah, the reason that you're thinking about it ain't the reason. That's all I got.
Yeah. Well, you can always have your own cow. That's what I grew up with.
That's right. If you have your own
cow.
If you have your own
How
cow,
was it?
and you want to like the Maasai and mix it with blood and do some things with it, have at it. But I'm glad Louis Pasteur was born and came along. But with that, now I want
you slip that in there, Tim.
So, Mark, I want to move into an area which you kind of alluded to earlier, where you said the palate expanded, you had more avenues of spice to add and things of that nature. Because I think especially for us, heavy meat eaters, it's the flavor in the world and what makes it taste good out there. And so, want to figure out how you've made healthy food taste good and make the cooking of it enjoyable. And I know one of the things that you've come up with is the 7 Culinary Keys that you teach.
Yes.
So could you take us through that a little bit?
Sure. And that is, so I have been doing this since the mid-90s, actually, where I started in San Diego, California, working in a natural food store kitchen, where I had the opportunity just to do a lot of experimenting with food and ingredients and flavors, and teaching thousands of people over the years. I kind of consolidated that into these 7 principles. And I truly believe that everyone has a capacity to be a a good cook at least and an accomplished chef at the best. But since if you have this sense of, I like this tastes good, this doesn't taste good to me, that's your palate. And so what I'll talk through the keys, the first key is your palate development. And I feel that if you could say, I like this, I don't like this, that means you have a palate that you can work with. And over time, it's a lifelong practice of just starting to get a sense of more of these flavors and the flavor combination. Like, this is what cilantro tastes like. This is what cilantro and garlic tastes like. This is what lemon and coconut tastes like. So it's a lifelong journey of palate development as the first key. The second key is my signature teaching style, is what I call a template recipe approach. And in all my years of teaching, this is the biggest takeaway students have that expand their confidence and creativity in the plant-based kitchen, where they make meals and they're like, oh, I can't believe I just created this dish. And what it is you look at the underlying formula of a recipe, you break it into its component parts, and by changing each component, you can create a new flavor profile. And so, if I may, I just want to share with a simple example. Like, I love making this, especially in the early summer, this creamy asparagus and corn soup. And so when I teach soups, I say, well, there's a base, which could be onion, celery, and garlic and water or stock. Then you have your main vegetable component, which in this case is asparagus, but you can replace the asparagus with broccoli or cauliflower or corn. So when I talk about this template approach, I look at it as spinning wheels on top of each other. So you take your main vegetable wheel and you spin it and you rotate through. With the creamy soups, which is where what ties into the non-dairy, I like using cashews or a cashew cream, and that is what I would call a creaminess component. So that creaminess you can create with cashews, macadamia nuts, you could use plant-based milks like coconut or soy, and then once we blend that, and we're gonna have a nice creamy soup, and I'll add some dill, which is then the fresh herb component, but that could be cilantro or basil. And then I like adding in some corn. So that's the vegetable add-on. The corn could be much
hungry. I'm getting hungry.
Yeah. So, well, the beauty of this approach is, like, if you don't have this idea of a template recipe and you look through a cookbook and you saw this recipe, you'd be like, well, I don't have asparagus, I don't have corn, I don't have dill, I don't have cashews, I don't have any of the ingredients that the recipe calls for. You might just pass over the recipe, but when you start seeing this underlying formula, you could see, oh, I'll open my fridge, I have broccoli, I have some coconut milk. So it really expands people's idea and breaks out of what I call the recipe trap. So that's key number 2. I won't go so in depth into the other keys, but that's an important key. The third key is the global spice blends. And this is really one of the biggest tips that I give people when they get started, is either make or purchase your own spice blend. That could be a Mexican, Italian, Ethiopian, Moroccan, Cajun. So that asparagus soup we talked about, right now you could just, with the flick of your hands, create 6 different global soups by using those spice blends. So spice blends is another key. Then world sauces, which oftentimes incorporates those spice blends, but this is where you learn to get in your toolkit a pesto sauce, a peanut sauce, curry sauce, teriyaki, harissa. Most chefs will say it's all about the sauce. So getting your feet wet a little bit with creating sauces is another key. Then there's the veganizing key, and this is really what touches on the question that when we talked about people on a heavy animal product diet. With veganizing, what you do is, so a lot of the recipes, like a chicken cacciatore, for instance, a lot of the ingredients are already plant-based. So your tomatoes, your basil, whatever, capers, whatever ingredients you have. So you set those aside, and then you look at, okay, what's the animal product in this dish that I'm looking to replace? And that's where in your toolkit we have things like tofu or tempeh or seitan. We have the non-dairy milks or substitutes. People use jackfruit, banana blossoms, watermelon can be used to create different flavors that give this sense of there's an animal product in here somewhere. I made a tempeh meatball and spaghetti dish for a friend, and I left, and then his wife came home, and she would never go to a vegan restaurant or anything. And my friend's a little loose with the truth, and so when she said, what is this? He said, oh, I ordered it from the deli down the street, and she ate it and loved it. And then he said, oh, that wasn't a meatball you just ate. So there's lots of ways to do that. The other key is what I call...
Mark, for a second on that?
Yeah, sure.
So I think most people, I think many people are familiar with tofu. You mentioned tempeh, and then there was one other one. I think that my son and his wife, because she's extremely plant-based, and I think she mentioned it too. It caught my ear that I don't remember. Can you mention those three again, if you would?
Sure.
Talk about what are they and the differences in them.
Okay, perfect. So tofu is it's a soy-based product originally from China. It used to be just you could get them in different textures, soft, medium, firm. Then they came out with the extra firm, and then only in the US, never to be outdone, we have the super firm. And so the super firm is a really amazing texture. Once you have the super firm, you'll never go back. It holds up to grilling. It's really solid. You don't need to press it. One package has like 70 grams of protein in it. So it's a very protein dense, that high protein tofu. Tempeh is like the cousin of tofu. It's less, it's soybean based, but it's more of the whole soybean. It's originally from Indonesia. It's mixed with the culture. It's a very, also extremely high protein, plant-based source. Seitan is originally from actually Buddhist monks, I think, in China. It's been used, it's the gluten from the wheat. So if you're gluten intolerant, cover your ears. This is like the nemesis of the gluten intolerant because it's pure gluten, but it's actually the highest protein source of the plant-based proteins. And that gluten you add other ingredients, like we'll add different spices to create like a chicken type texture or beef. And a lot of the products you see in the frozen food section use this wheat gluten, which is a whole food, to create all these different flavor profiles.
Wow.
What step are you on now?
This is I was going to number 6.
Okay.
So 1 is the palate development, 2 is the template, 3 is the spice blend, 4 is the sauce, 5 is veganizing. So now on to 6 is superfood nutrition. And this is where we incorporate superfoods to maximize the nutritional value of our food. And 7 is experimentation. And that also is probably the most important one. I challenge even the most accomplished chefs to go to an international grocery store, and I'm sure there's ingredients there that they haven't encountered. And with this, it's just in my classes, I encourage people to have like the Thomas Edison approach in the kitchen. So you're always experimenting, there's no failure, you're just learning, you're being kind with yourself, and eventually with more and more practice, you become more and more accomplished.
So this is a selfish question.
Sure.
Because I think when you talked about spice combinations, that's fascinating to me. And I've never thought about that, even though I spice with different things. But I like the idea of making spice combinations of different cuisine types to have the stock spices around in the mixtures, and just say, I want this one this time. Can you tell me or tell our audience a little bit about how to do that?
Sure. So it's this is something you just can, I mean, in all my cookbooks I have spice blend recipes, but you learn. So Italian blends will have basil, oregano, and it's interesting as you study the culinary arts and cuisine from around the world, you'll see that the curry spice blend or the Cajun spice blend varies as you go region to region and village to village or household to household. They'll have their own unique blends. Like this grandma will put in a little more, cayenne just to give it that kick. So Italian blends would be like basil, oregano, parsley, marjoram. A Mexican blend would be using like the chili powder, cumin. The Indian blend takes that cumin also. So you see cumin in a lot of cuisines from around the world. And then you add in the curry powder. And if you go into Cajun, there's overlap. So it's a huge topic, but a little bit of research, And actually a good food store will have some of these pre-made blends.
I'll get one of your cookbooks. What's the best cookbook for that?
So the book that I like to share is called Healing the Vegan Way, and there's over 200 recipes. It was a few awards attached to it, but it has contributions from a lot of the leading medical doctors and nutritionists in the plant-based world. And to me, it really makes a strong case for including more plant-based foods in your diet. But the recipes also, I always do international cuisine. So it's that would be especially for this show's audience, what I would recommend.
Is it available on Amazon? Can I find it on Amazon, or do I have to go to the Mark Reinfeld website, or both?
You could do both. Amazon is fine. If you look up Healing the Vegan Way, it's up there.
Okay. Now, Chef, you just touched on superfoods. Give us an example. What are some superfoods?
So the idea of superfoods goes to this idea of nutrient density. And so nutrient density is where you pack as much nutrients into a small amount as possible. There's something that's called the ANDI score that Dr. Joel Fuhrman developed, called Aggregate Nutrient Density Index. And it looks at this amount of nutrients, which could be vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, and he rated it from 1 to 1,000. 1,000 is like kale and the dark leafy greens, and Wonder Bread is 0. So between Wonder Bread and kale, you have the full spectrum of foods. But when I encourage people to make like a superfood smoothie, I'm looking at things like hemp seeds, chia seeds, maca powder, spirulina, cacao. Those are the goji berries. They're like this list. They're high in the antioxidants.
Yeah. And so I'm surprised that Wonder Bread even has a 0. I thought it was a negative score. So all that sugar and
I forgot what it was called. I forgot the name of it all.
I grew up in New York, so it was part of our daily life.
Yeah, no,
wasn't that rye bread? A rye?
The seedless rye also I liked.
Exactly. So, Chef, for somebody just starting out, what are 2 or 3 techniques or ingredients that we could incorporate to really start to get a flavor and get the nutrition that you're talking about?
So I go back to the spice blend idea. So it's a simple thing. You could just, like most stores will have a Mexican, an Indian, and Italian blend just to get started. But then you could start expanding and follow some simple recipes. You just put the spices in a bowl, mix it up, and put it in a jar. So the spice blends is a really big tip. I usually recommend also just getting more creative with your salads. So I grew up iceberg lettuce, pale tomato, soggy cucumber. That was what a salad was. But using this idea of a template recipe, I like doing like an ultimate salad. So you have different mixed greens, and nowadays there's so much variety of mixed greens you could get in the market. The power greens or protein greens, different vegetables that are even just changing how you cut the vegetable changes your experience. So you could have sliced or julienne or spiralized. Chopped salads are popular. Adding things like nuts and seeds. I love adding avocado. I always have toasted pumpkin seeds for sprinkling on. When you're doing a salad, you want to have something chewy, something crunchy. You want to have a lot of colors going on. So that could also be using leftover vegetables. If you have a grilled vegetable dish the night before, you could chop it up and put it in your salad. Things like beans and legumes can bulk up your salads. And then the other thing I suggest is also this idea of a superfood smoothie. So you could start your day, a simple smoothie with like a plant-based milk, a banana, some frozen berries, and then some of these superfoods that I mentioned. You really get a big energy burst. So those are the ingredients and recipes, but the mindset, I think, is another factor that's important.
I want to get to that in a second, but Dr. Bob, I couldn't tell if you were licking your chops, so I can't eat that way.
Well, when he mentioned iceberg lettuce, and we all know that it's like nutrient not dense, and it's just like zero benefit kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Right.
like eating celery. You burn more calories eating the celery than you actually get out of the celery, but it's crunchy.
That's funny.
Then he went on to all the variations, and that's when I couldn't tell if you're getting in line or saying I can't handle the variations.
I love this conversation. This is fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah. What's your opinion, Chef, on the microgreens? There's been quite a rage on social media anyway about growing your own microgreens and having your own little indoor gardens. Are you really getting that much nutrition from the seedling versus the full plant?
I believe so. I think because like what I in my class is just like there's a potential in the seed, and so if I took a sunflower seed and we put it on the table and we said like, when's it going to grow? The seed would outlive us, but once you give it the moisture, it's going to activate. Like in a sunflower, there's this potential in that seed that's going to create a 12-foot plant. So there's that, whatever you want to call that, whatever the scientific term would be, that's in that seed. And so when you look at the microgreens, you're really catching like that burst from seed to life. So I do feel like that there's validity to including them.
Very interesting. I appreciate that.
So let's go back where I curtailed you a little bit on the mindfulness. Now, there's also about, I think a lot of your work and what you advocate is mindfulness and intention. Now, is that what you meant by when you say, I'll find little seeds, I'll find this type of green versus iceberg lettuce, I'll go out and look for this spice blend. So what in this context, in your context, what is mindfulness and intention, and how does it impact the outcome for people in following this path?
Great questions. There's a lot of levels to it. So as a chef, the quintessential chef is like going through to the farmer's market. They're looking for the best ingredient. They're challenging the farmer. They're asking questions. So there's that level of just ingredient integrity and quality of bringing your mindfulness to. You can see, like, if you say I'm going to get a bunch of kale and it's a wilted, discolored, pale color, or it's like vibrant and green, by being mindful and like I'm going to select the fresher one, there's that level. With what I also mean by it is just like your approach to how you're entering the kitchen. So a lot of us live these chaotic, hectic lives, and we're scattered and scrambled, and dinner needs to get on the table in 20 minutes. And so I try to help people relax a little bit when they're in the kitchen and look at it as a time where they could be present and mindful and have this feeling of gratitude for being able to prepare food and love for the people they're preparing it for. That's one level, but it's also this idea of no mistakes. So most Dr. Bob?
No, I don't want. When I put my hand up, I like to jump in later, so I don't want.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
This it's an idea of having a positive attitude in the kitchen and being gentle with yourself. And a friend of mine, his friend won this world-class handball tournament. And he said, "How did you win?" He said, "Well, when I made a good shot, I said, good shot. When I missed a shot, I said, nice try." So he was like, good shot, nice try, good shot, nice try. He wasn't like beating himself up for the mistake, like, I can't believe I ruined this. Like, I've had times where I would leave out a minor ingredient in baking, like the leavening, and instead of having a fluffy chocolate cake, I'd have this solid mass of chocolate. And so you just
chocolate matzah.
Yeah, chocolate matzah. You cut it up, make a little vegan whipped cream, and you say, here's your parfait, instead of saying, oh, this is a disaster, I almost threw it out, I was going to feed it to the dogs, but I decided I'm going to see if you like it. You just say, here's the parfait. So this idea, a lot of the things that we call mistakes can be worked with. So it's that kind and gentle attitude towards yourself, which will allow you to learn more and get more proficient in the kitchen.
And that can apply in a lot of areas of life, what you just talked about. Seriously.
Yeah.
Very important. Very important message for people to hear. Yeah. Okay, I have one word. I want you to comment on this one word: microwave.
Ooh, that's a good question. So,
I don't want to put you on the spot, so I just. But
Yeah, you could put me on the spot. It used to be that I just stored fruit. I lived in Hawaii for many years, so it was just where we stored the fruit was in the microwave. I spent time with someone in Maui who was like a astrophysicist kind of guy, and he hired someone to do research on microwaving, and he found that it wasn't such a negative thing, and so I've softened a little bit, especially in the busy lifestyle. I don't rely on it, but I have used it on occasion, not very often, but that's my what are your
it's a big beautiful time saver, Bob.
what are your thoughts on it, Bob?
Are you well, no, I mean, I just use rapid cooking on the stovetop instead of the microwave, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was a study done many years ago showing that infant formula that was microwaved versus warmed on the stovetop, the microwave formula caused delays in delays in development.
Interesting.
So there's a lot of studies about the microwave that are not so flattering.
Yeah, it's a very strange phenomena that how hot it could get in such a short period of time. So it doesn't fully align with this idea of like the nature-based way, but as
certainly destroys protein configurations. Anyway,
Yeah.
thank you for commenting on that.
Interesting. We'd talked about that on another episode where how you should never microwave honey when it crystallized because you're absolutely killing all the good enzymes that are in honey. So
Best tasting vegetables I've had are microwave frozen peas, Bob.
Now I know what happened to you, Tim. I've been trying to figure out what happened to Tim. I'm a health detective.
You take it off. 2 cups of frozen peas, put them in there. Take Dr. Mark's, Mark's Indonesian blend, put them in there, microwave them in 5 minutes. You got a beautiful meal there.
Well, I would like to plug one ingredient that's a core part of the plant-based pantry called nutritional yeast. And so in a lot of the techniques, it's also in some circles called hippie dust. It's used in a lot of the ingredients and techniques. They have a nutritional component and a culinary component. And with nutritional yeast, it's high in protein, it's high in the B vitamins, and there's a fortified brand that has the B12. So it serves a role in a plant-based diet, but it also gives a nutty and cheesy flavor to dishes. So I use it. I carry it in my holster. I travel internationally with it, use it for sauces and salads, toast, popcorn.
You don't get stopped by the border patrol people thinking you're pushing drugs or something.
Well, I've definitely had my suitcase searched on occasion, like I'm traveling sometimes with my blender, knife kit, jars, and so I've had some delays in travel.
And do we just ask the store manager where we find the hippie dust? Where do you
It's also called nooch, some people call it, but it's when we talked about, it ties into the dairy conversation as well, is because you can use it to create, like I make like mozzarella, cheddar style cream cheeses that use the nutritional yeast as like a core ingredient.
Now, can I find out about that? And was that Healing the Vegan Way book, or is that another book I got to look at?
You could find it in Healing the Vegan Way.
Okay.
Good deal.
Hey, I'm getting that book. That's
I'm gonna get that for my daughter-in-law.
Nice.
Excellent.
Tim, I think
So let's take a quick break out for our sponsor today. And, there's been so much attention around the GLP-1s and their benefits for weight loss. Obviously, the medications came out to help diabetes, but we've found that, hey, there's another use, and it's weight loss. But there's always a but, right? Are you tired of all the painful injections and the expensive prescriptions? Want to lose weight all naturally? Well, without any of the hassle, you can. It's called Brain IQ Fast Melts. It's a revolutionary way to shed pounds very efficiently. And it's less than 1/4 of the cost of the traditional GLP prescriptions. You can lose up to 28 pounds in 10 weeks with no side effects. The leading prescriptions take 40 weeks to get the similar results. And guess what? they do have side effects. So outperform the leading GLP prescriptions, lose more weight in less time, and say hello to a faster, safer, smarter way to reach your weight loss goals. And it is called Brain IQ. We'll leave a link in the show notes.
That's really important information, Brick. That's really important because so many people are on the GLP-1 type drugs, and wow, it's just a kind of a mess at times.
We don't even know what the long-term side effects are going to be from all of those prescription medications yet. We're just now starting to see some of them come to light. So back to the show. One of the most powerful ideas that you talk about, Chef Mark, is reclaiming your health through food. So let's dig a little deeper into that now. How does gaining confidence in the kitchen, and having, the, I guess, desire to experiment with other things that you've talked about, how is that going to really help our longevity and our health overall?
So that's a great question. And so a lot of people are relying on going out to dinner, ordering in, going to restaurants a lot, not to mention fast food and things like that. So whole, I'm even going with just like not the fast food sector, but you never know really how much oil is going to be put in there, how much salt, if MSG is getting put in there. So just by feeling more confident in how we prepare our food, I mean, to me, I just think, again, going back to the Hippocrates quote, it's like food is our medicine. Like what someone said, like we're going to eat like the volume of food that we eat compared to like medicine or supplement. We're taking a tiny pill, but we're eating like massive amounts of food. Like food, in my opinion, should be our first line of defense in creating health. And so it's, from my personal perspective, it's like incorporating a wide variety of food. That's really important. You hear a lot of people say, oh, I tried the plant-based diet, it didn't work for me. But if you probe a little, they became a pastatarian or a pizzatarian instead of a vegetarian, that they didn't get this wide variety of food. The American Academy of Dietitians said that all of our body's nutritional needs can be met on a well-planned plant-based diet, and it applies to all life stages. The key to that is well-planned, and that's where pastatarian doesn't count in that. So you look at all the different colors and different foods, and just even looking at the vegetables and the herbs as a way to, that's what I like to also, the food as art is another like approach that I like to take. So the plate is our canvas. Nature has provided all these colors and textures and flavors, and it's like we're like creating this in any other like artistic creative form, like through food. And so using all these ingredients, it's very empowering. So if you feel like I can't cook, that's not for me, you're really cutting yourself off from like the source of your health, and you're giving it to other people who you're hoping can have the same intention. But that's why I encourage people, take real baby steps. If you're eating, try plant-based once a week or one meal a week, or, do a meatless Monday, something like that. Take baby steps so you don't feel like you're depriving yourself, and try, my cookbooks, the other cookbooks, I'll give them a little plug, is a 30-minute vegan series that I did. 30-minute vegan, Taste of Europe, Taste of the East, Soups On, for people who like soups. I promoted that as vegan soups for the chicken soul. So we did that, and
creative.
The last book I did was with my wife, who's a plant-based naturopathic doctor, called The Ultimate Age Defying Plan, because I'm doing pretty good for 85, so it's time to share. But it's
put age in the show notes. That's right.
Yeah.
It's just baby steps, but it's very, very empowering. If you could, I like encouraging people to do monk bowls, simple salads, things just, you're like, oh, that tastes pretty good, I like that. And then you just build your successes on that. I think it's the main way that we can take our health back personally, is learning how to cook for ourselves.
Yep. So related to that, as reclaim the health, And we talked a little bit about some of the health benefits you've seen earlier. But now you have some immersion programs you have for people. One, tell us a little bit about those immersion programs, and then aside from health, how have you seen it changing people's lives? Are they 85 and performing like they're 30?
Yeah. I mean, I just recently had a woman who say it was one of the best things. She was in maybe her 70s, say it was the best thing one of the best things she's ever done. I have a lot of, if you look on my website, the testimonials are pretty amazing. It's a deep dive. So I do have online courses that are short. I have like single workshop type classes and 6-part Nourish Your Life courses that are intro to plant-based, but my signature program is a real deep dive. It's a 4-week culinary immersion. We're in the kitchen together for 4 hours a day for 5 days a week for 4 weeks. So it's a real deep dive. The first day we do palate development exercise. We focus a whole day just on palate. Then we do template recipes, global cuisine. Each day is a deep dive into, we do salads and dressings one day, soups one day, grain dishes one day, legumes, desserts, bread baking, pasta making, raw foods, so entrees, plant-based cheeses, plant proteins. We make our own seitan. It's very comprehensive, and I can pretty much guarantee a dramatic improvement in people's creativity and confidence. I have an expert bread baker and pasta maker. My wife, Dr. Boudet, does a 4-part food as medicine modules for the course. We focus on food plating and creativity and food photography. It's a really, I've been teaching for many years, and I love this format. I've had, in the last course I had a chef from France, a 14-year-old from England, someone in Canada, a woman in Mexico, a few places in the US. I've had a culinary student from Turkey, a woman with a coffee plantation in Nicaragua. So it's a very comprehensive program that I fully stand behind the outcome.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Okay, that's my next million. I'm gonna have you fly you out, and we're gonna. Tim now's local, so we'll do a combined class for Tim and I, so we can.
I do in-person classes. I have a 3-day in-person class in Maui that I'll be doing in January. I used to do a lot of 3, 5, and 10-day trainings pre-COVID. So for those of you in the Hawaii area, there's something there coming soon. That's
awesome.
So I have one more word for you, and you addressed it a little bit before: supplements.
I personally feel that we need supplementation because just the food quality now is questionable. I mean, I think in an ideal world we were getting everything from our food sources, but I personally feel like, especially, plant-based diet, like B12 supplementation, vitamin D, like minimal as possible, but I do think it's important. I do use like a plant food-based protein mix in my smoothies. It has a variety of nutrients in it. So and my wife's a plant-based naturopathic doctor, so we definitely have our supplements and tinctures going on here.
Is that in Healing the Vegan Way too?
I believe it's touched upon in there too.
So I'm pushing that book. I like that book. Yeah.
Thanks.
So Chef Mark, a lot of our audience, they join this podcast because they're dealing with something, right? They have a lot of stress. They have inflammation. They may have a chronic illness that they're dealing with. What can plant-based cooking, really, what is going to help them with even prevention of getting worse than where they are at today, or even healing them?
Yeah, it's interesting. Someone made an analogy. If you look at the medical history, like the history of medicine from when it first started to now, and then you look at the history of nutrition from when it started to now, we're like in the leechcraft stage of medicine. We're the very early stages of our understanding of nutrition, but over time, the evidence is definitely mounting that many of these conditions, like the heart disease one, is like a no-brainer to me. Like it's so becoming so clear. Type 2 diabetes, also a lot of people are experiencing recovery. So I'm thoroughly convinced that the more plant-based foods that we take in, the more we're doing our part to maximize our health. And some things require acute conditions or chronic conditions. Like, I believe advanced medical technology definitely has an important role to play, and supplementation has a role to play. I just feel like returning to the basics and looking at the nutrients that are available through plant-based foods is, like, to me, it's like a first step. And I highly encourage people to just put their foot in the water, make a nice salad, and go from there. A nice smoothie, and you could build on it.
Right. So along those lines, about to come in, we want to take it into the realm of what you just said of helping people make it real and practical and sustainable and growing on that. If they can't get to your immersion where they just become so immersed that then they're just automatically that way. But so you made the tip there, just make a salad. You said earlier on, just pick out one day a week to do it. Any other tips you've got for people, your top tips for saying, how do you get started if you're feeling overwhelmed or you're apprehensive about this?
So, okay, I'll do, well, one is we send out a weekly newsletter through Substack, and it includes recipes and tips and information. We just sent one out on juicing with different juicing recipes. So that's a great way to kind of stay up with the information that we share every week. I have to then do a plug for the ultimate age-defying plan. All the recipes have 7 ingredients or less. So that was a challenge that I set myself up for, not counting salt and pepper. Those don't count as 2, but it's really these simple steps. Like, I think the mindset is really the first step, is feeling like I can do this. Even if I'm not a good cook now, I know with practice that I'll get better and better. Other people have done this, I could do this. It's like kind of pumping up your self-confidence is the main thing, and just being willing to give it a try. The tips, I think what I covered would get people, make a nice salad is a good first step.
Dr. Bob?
I have one more word for you. A one-word guy: sugar.
Ooh, good one. So I'm a philosophy major, so I like looking at things on spectrums. So on one end of the spectrum, we have like the dark side of the force. So that's the refined white sugar, the high fructose corn syrup. The other side, we have an apple. And so in between, we have the world of concentrated sweeteners. And I think everyone's relationship to sugar, some people are more sensitive. For some people, they really need, sugar is sugar. They need to like really cut it. For other people, looking at more of these whole food, like date sugar or date syrups. You can make your own sweetener by blending dates with water as a way to having more of the whole food. So my whole approach is gravitate towards a whole food plant-based diet. You don't have to be there, but just start inching your way there.
Okay, that's really good.
Personally, I think refined sugar is poison.
Yeah.
You can trace the sugar industry back to ancient times, and really in industry, it's really it's like drugs.
Yeah.
So, Chef, how do we keep our listeners motivated when they're short on time, they're super busy? What keeps them from just going back to old habits and grabbing a bag of chips and a soda?
That's great. So I think if you have one day where you have 1 hour where you could like prepare yourself a little bit. So maybe it's cutting up some carrot and celery sticks. Maybe it's having some, spreads like hummus or even nut butters, because when the snack craving hits, you're going to go with whatever is there. So you need a little bit of that, brings that mindfulness in of like preparing for the snack attack. So having the alternatives, I think, is crucial. So, different sparkling waters. If you have a soda thing, it could, try having a sparkling water once a week. And, I'm a real big fan of like baby steps. some people need to make these dramatic changes, but a lot of times a dramatic change is like the pendulum. And so you're like, I'm going to fast for a week and then I'm at the Burger King drive-thru. And so it's like, I just think like a middle path approach is important.
Yeah, very good.
Do you have any online programs?
I do actually. So I have several courses. A course that I did with my wife is called Nourish Your Life Through Food, and it's a 6-part course. This is all available on my website, veganfusion.com, where I start with the basics in the kitchen, like this is the sharp end of the knife. There's the kitchen, like real basic, and we do quick items, breakfast items, lunch, dinner, snacks, beverages, and Dr. Boudet goes through these kind of the elevator pitch nutrition components, so you can get a little sense of the why, like what are macronutrients, what are micronutrients, where do we get our protein, where do we get our calcium, what kind of medicine do we have in our kitchen cabinet. So there's that program. I have a diabetes reversal program that I did with Dr. Boudet and a registered dietitian from the West Coast, and he has like a 50% success rate of getting people off of their medications. I have a Living Beyond Cancer course that I did with an integrative oncologist. A lot of success in survivorship and remission, and so I have these programs are all on veganfusion.com.
Awesome.
Any place else where you want people to go aside from your website? Okay, is that just kind of the right portal, right starting place, or anything?
Yeah, I think that's the best starting place, and the Substack, following on Substack is probably the best initial step, because you're going to get a lot of the updates and information. And once you subscribe, you could see the archive newsletters as well.
Some people don't know what Substack is. Can you say something about that?
Sure. So it's it's like basically we were doing like constant contact for our emails for probably 20 years, and Substack it's basically a platform for writers, and as a writer, so someone who sends out emails or newsletters, there's no charge. They don't charge you for sending it out. It's based on like paid subscribers. So it's kind of an upcoming platform for writers, and we adopted it about a year ago.
It's a great platform, but is it substack.com that you go to?
Yes, it's substack.com. I think it's veganfusion.substack.com.
They can search your name, right?
Yeah, Vegan Fusion or Chef Mark Reinfeld.
But if they want to go to Substack, they go to substack.com and then they can find you.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, yeah. That's great. If our listeners aren't familiar with Substack, get familiar with it, go there, because there's so much great information on it, and you can get Mark Reinfeld stuff.
Yeah, it's veganfusion.substack.com.
Perfect.
There we go. Yeah. Perfect.
Cool.
Well, Chef Mark, man, your wife and family are so lucky to have you in their lives. And
well, I should have you tell my wife that.
Definitely. We'll tell the good doctor that for you. But thank you so much for showing us how healing can begin right there in your kitchen. And for those that are tuning in, if you want to eat better, feel better, and take real control of your health, this conversation is your invitation. So be sure and subscribe to the WellWaveNOW podcast and visit wellnesswaveclub.com for more tools to nourish your body and your mind and your future. So always remember, wellness, it's in you.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Great to have you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you being here today live. We'll